Hello and welcome. It's me, Keith Mabbott, the founder and CEO of the Street Soccer Foundation. And today's podcast interview, we have the fantastic Ash Lawrence, performance psychologist and business owner. Kicking things off, Ash, for the benefit of our listeners, would you please give a brief introduction to yourself?
My name's Ash and I'm a performance psychologist. I've spent most of my life building and selling businesses. I work with business and sports people to help them improve their mindset because I believe the difference between good and great is the little bit that's between their ears, their mind. And I absolutely love working with people and helping them change theirs.
Here we go, straight off the bat, and we're getting into good value already, Ash. The difference between good and great being your own mind. Before I focus on that a bit more with you, I want to start off by getting to know more about you as a young boy, Ash Lawrence, the young boy, when you were a teenager growing up. What were you like and how was your upbringing?
As a young boy, I had quite a strict upbringing because my dad was a policeman, so there were quite a few boundaries in place. And because of his job, I went to lots of different schools, 7 in fact, and which brought some issues of its own. So turning into a teenager, I was quite a leery guy that wanted to fight the world, and which again brought more problems. And I thought I knew it all, but it's now that I know that I knew nothing as a teenager. So interesting years as a teenager. Most of it was spent rebelling against my dad and everything that he did. And if I hadn't had the structure that my dad brought to that, I would have probably got into a lot more trouble than I actually did. It was, some tough years there. And I wish I'd had somebody different to tell me what I know now, but then we all know that we can't do that. But good structured upbringing. Yeah.
So tough times growing up, but with a good structure to it. And I think, structure comes discipline. And I've known you for a few years now. And at the beginning, you mentioned your experience of building and selling a number of businesses and just coming to that side of your personality. Did you always have what they call that kind of entrepreneurial bug? Is that kind of, and what even is an entrepreneur in your view?
Good question. What is an entrepreneur? If you think, for me, the thing of this is if being an entrepreneur means that you have an idea and then you have the motivation to follow that idea through and create your own income without relying on anybody, then yes, I'd probably say that I was an entrepreneur. Right the way back from being 5 years old and selling tomato plants off of an old go-kart that I'd made, and my dad had planted the tomato plants, right the way up through my school years of washing cars, mowing lawns, cleaning windows, and all of those things to earn a living because my mum and dad never had any money to give me. And if my dad always said, if you want it, son, you've got to go out and earn it. And for me, I've always done that because I didn't want to live in a council house like they did. Not there's anything wrong with that. It's just I didn't want to do that. I wanted better things that I saw other people having. So if that's what entrepreneurship is, then maybe I'm an entrepreneur. But I probably just look at it, I'm a businessman and I have got the motivation to go out and get what I want and be responsible for me.
Brilliant, Ash. Brilliant advice. And, it's that, isn't it? What you say there. If you want something, you've got to go out and earn it, make it happen for yourself. And like you say, take responsibility for yourself. So in considering your background, I picked up on the fact that you seem to have an endless list of qualifications. You're a graduate of the Coaching Academy, masterclass of corporate coaching, an NLP practitioner and master trainer, and also somehow have fitted in a PhD in business and sports psychology. I mean, were you an academic type at school?
The last thing that I describe myself is an academic. Absolutely not. Not now and not when I was at school. I left school with 0 qualifications and probably would have continued that way if my first boss, my best mate's dad, who I went to work for, said to me, you need to actually study to get this apprenticeship. And then I realised at that stage that, you have to put the time in. It's not just about turning up and doing it. You have to put the time in to learn to do something properly. So when I'd actually left school was when I did most of my learning, and obviously doing what I do now, yes, I need to be qualified to do that. And the biggest lesson from all of this about learning for me is very much about continual personal improvement. And none of us are the finished article and ever will be, but we have to continually improve who we are to be a better version of where we were yesterday. So no, wasn't an academic, even not an academic now, but I've realised that if I want something again, there's a theme here, Keith. If we really want something, we have to put in the time on ourselves to improve it so that we actually know what we're talking about.
I totally get it, Ash. And as you say, they're actively seeking out learning opportunities, and having that presence of mind to want to learn in itself provides the opportunity for continual personal development, doesn't it? And improvement. And I think for all of us, I think it's fair that, we'd all like to be as close to the best version of ourselves. And to be a better version of ourselves, we need to invest in ourselves. So keeping to that theme, for those who might not be aware, in terms of your NLP training and qualifications, I know you've been trained by the likes of John Seymour, Paul McKenna, and the creator of NLP, Dr. Richard Bandler. What were some of your key takeaways from these guys, and what would you say is the core value and benefits of NLP?
Again, another really good question. So what did I learn from Paul and Richard? Well, I'd say from Paul McKenna, overall, it would be that you can train your mind to do anything if you put your mind to it. If you believe that, you can do anything. From Richard Bandler, I would definitely say that it was, if you realised how powerful your mind was, you'd be very careful what you thought. Richard was very motivational as well, in framing things up in a different way and helping people see things in a different way. Regarding NLP, so for me, NLP, one of the things NLP is taught, there's a lot of people out there teaching it, and what they actually do, they teach it, but they don't incorporate it into their life. So the biggest learning from me from NLP is to actually incorporate the 13 key presuppositions into my own life and actually live those, because then I can benefit other people more, especially around communication.
Ash, this is excellent. Essentially my interpretation of that is to practice what you preach and live by your teachings. And it's so true. You know well the work of our foundation, the Street Soccer Foundation, and a huge element of our work is positive mindset coaching. And as you touched on there, the ability to train your mind, you can see yourself being able to do anything. I think, during this lockdown, for me, I think it maybe possibly quite acceptable if we could have held our hands up and said, what can we do? There's nothing we can do. We can't deliver our programs. We can't do this or that. But, when we're teaching a positive mindset, it's crucial we live by those teachings. And so we find a way and we focus on what we can do. So moving on to another sphere, I know about your sporting achievements, but for those that might not, there's a small fact: you've played for England over 50 times and you're a bit of a ninja too. Tell us more about that and how it all came about.
Yes, Keith, I loved playing for England, indoor cricket, 52 times, and travelled all over the world to do that. And I love being in a team, and whether it's in business or in sport, you can achieve so much more together. And one of the things, the camaraderie that I've built from those teams, and not just with the England players, that obviously they're all still really good mates, but all of the players that I've met all over the world and are still really good friends. I've got friends on virtually all of the continents now, and it's bigger than the sport. It's much bigger than the sport. It's all about building the relationships, which for me, that is what life is. The quality of your life is directly proportional to the quality of your relationships. So for me, the England part was brilliant. Regarding the ninja bit, yeah, well, that's a bit different. As a kid, my dad used to teach unarmed combat in the police force, which was one of the reasons we moved to lots of different schools, because he'd finish 6 months secondment and then we'd move to another school. But the good bit about that is that was taught how to look after myself, and I was lucky enough that I was selected for the Great Britain, and I fought in the European Karate Championships. And I think that was in 1971. I was about 15. So that was good. And I went on and did a lot of jiu-jitsu as well. But the good thing about that was that I actually looked after myself, and it probably kept me out of more trouble when I was at school and all those teenage years. So yeah, loved it.
I've got to say, one thing you just said in there is something I absolutely love. The fact that the quality of your life is equivalent to the quality of your relationships. It's a really interesting one for me, that, Ash. Just briefly referencing back to the work of the foundation for a moment, if I may. The vast majority of the young people we support, as you know, are typically in a homeless state. They're kind of, in some form of supported or social housing. And when we talk to these young people, we find that it's around 50-60% became homeless due to a relationship breakdown. And there's something in that, in what you say, certainly for us to really consider strongly and look at. Thank you for that. So bringing it back to business, you own and run one of Kent's largest and successful business network groups, the ABC networks. What made you start that in the first place, and why do you feel it's so important?
Yes, ABC, Kent's friendliest network company. So why did we start this? So I started this business with a mate called Brian Wakefield, and Brian and I came together with the idea that we would build a network that was for the members, and to help them build relationships rather than just transactions, so that they can actually build long-term relationships with each other that would be mutually beneficial, and to bring together a community. Brian's gone on to do something else now, and he runs his own very successful networking company. And for me, ABC now is especially through the COVID situation, we've come together stronger than ever and supported each other in some tough times. And that's what we continue to do, because it is very much about building those relationships. Because I learned early on in life, it's not just what you know, but who you know and how well they know you that will help you get on. So yes, that's what ABC is about. It's about building friendly and effective business relationships.
Again, there, you've just said something that for me stands out head and shoulders about networking. Yes, and I'm sure many people have heard that phrase. It's not what you know, it's who you know. But you're saying it's also how well they know you. That for me is the absolute key. It's got to be a reciprocal relationship, isn't it? A two-way, relationship being the key word there. So not just to go out and put yourself out in front of people for the sake of doing it and dishing out business cards or whatever, but investing that time, your time, to make those new acquaintances and to properly get to know people and how you might best help and support them. And I have to say, myself being a member of ABC, it's been an absolute privilege, Ash, and I'm really grateful to you, from the community that you've created. The support I've had has just been absolutely incredible. Thank you. So I want to come back to you now on a different angle, your business and sporting backgrounds and achievements. What about any lows? How have you sort of overcome any significant challenges or disappointments in your life over the years?
So the things that I've learnt from sports and business is that we can achieve so much more in a team and with other people. And I think going back to 1996, I had some really low points in my life at that time, and I went to the doctors, and he told me I was diagnosed with manic depression, and I couldn't work out why one minute I'm high as anything, and then the next time low, and I couldn't really give too much of a damn about anything. And manic depression is now is bipolar disorder basically. And I didn't realise why all that was happening. But one of the biggest things was I've learned now that I can control that. And one of the ways it is about reaching out and asking for help from other people. That is absolutely crucial. and the team, the sports, and sharing things with your teammates and other people is key. Being able to talk about the problems and not bottling it up, and that I would say is a key element in this particular thing, because no man is an island. We can't do it on our own, and we have to reach out. And being part of a sport team, or a business with other people, or a business networking, it's absolutely crucial that we can reach out and help and ask other people to help us. And I think for me to help other people, it is about communicating and talking to other people. And for me, when I feel low now, and it happens because we all do, it happens to everybody. But one of the things that I do on a daily basis is I've got an attitude of gratitude, and I know that's an old cliche, but every morning when I clean my teeth, I look out of my bathroom window across the fields, and I'm grateful that I've got a lovely wife. I'm grateful that I've got three great sons that are healthy. I'm grateful that I can put food on my plate. I'm grateful that I've got a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I can do lots of things, and I'm grateful that I have improved my mind and have got a strength of mind, and look at the bigger picture and put things in perspective. That for me is probably the key elements. There is look at the bigger picture, reach out to other people and ask for help, because there are people out there that can help.
Just the best answer here, Ash, and I'm really grateful for you sharing with our listeners the fact that you manage a bipolar disorder, and that's the word there, that as you mentioned, you manage and control it. But then what you've gone on to say there, not being afraid to reach out and ask for help. I remember when I was a lot younger, I had a tendency to bottle kind of almost anything and everything up. My parents divorced when I was young, and I had to grow up really quickly at an early age. But like you say, surrounding yourself with people who are good for you and who care and who you care about too, it's really crucial. So taking it back to networking, getting out there and meeting people, this is how obviously you and I first met, isn't it? I think we bumped into each other at Gillingham Football Club. You were just leaving a meeting and I was just arriving for one. And, we're all about changing lives through football. You're all about changing lives by changing minds. And that's where we kind of, had a real alignment with each other, and how we thankfully became involved in the Street Soccer Foundation. But I know you specialise in kind of what you say as mindset reprogramming. What, in your view, in this sort of term, is the fundamental benefit of having a positive mindset?
Yeah, this is a great follow on, Keith, from the last question. It is about having a positive mental attitude. And I think so many people have what is called a negative cognitive bias instead of a positive cognitive bias. And I think we have part of our brain that's called the reticular activation system. And we teach this on our mindset courses. But what that reticular activation system is, it's like a doorman to your mind. And whatever you program that doorman to let in is what you will let into your mind. So you have to program your reticular activation system to see the positive. And a lot of people, they don't. They've been brought up on that negativity. And for me, the difference is, at the end of the day, the pessimist might be right, but the optimist has had a much better life because they've actually enjoyed it all the way through. And most of my one of my best sayings probably is hope for the best and look for the best, but plan for the worst. So put something in place if the worst happens, but let's hope for the best and look for the best in people, look for the best opportunities and the positive things out there, because there are a lot of good and positive things that are happening. But if we only focus on the negative, then that's what we're going to find.
Absolutely. It's that, isn't it? What and where you focus on. If it's the negativity that can, of course, come into anyone's life, then that's what you're going to be drawn into and brought down by. But that analogy of a doorman, I absolutely love. I've not come across that before. If you train your own doorman to only let in positivity and positive thoughts, then even when something occurs that, isn't what you expected or maybe wanted, you've programmed your mind in such a way that you can absorb it and see maybe what can be done about it and whether there are any positives to take from that. Brilliant. So, Ash, we've come to the last question, and I just want to put on record here, I'm so thankful to you and for all the support you've given me over the years, both to me and for the benefit of the foundation, and therein all the young people we've brought through our programs. You're helping developing elements of our academy program and mentoring training. It's immensely valued and appreciated. Thank you very much, mate, for that. So the final question we always ask is, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
There's lots of people out there that give you different bits of advice all the way through your life. People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So it's not always your mum or dad or that great business guru that is going to, or life guru that is going to give you that perfect piece of advice. And for me, it was probably my best mate's dad, Ben. And he gave me a couple of bits that made a difference, because he actually moved me from the employee mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset. And two bits really. The first bit was look after the pennies and the pounds and look after themselves. He gave me a great bit of advice really by saying any idiot can make money, but holding on to it is the hardest bit. So practice on how you look after it when you've got it. And then the next bit, which I would think was probably a key bit again, is if you put your mind to it and you've got the determination and motivation to push it through, you can achieve almost anything. So that would probably be it really. And that's what I'd say to everybody. There's lots of people out there to help all the time. But there's no point in learning something if you're not going to do something with it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much again, Ash. Great advice. If you put your mind to it, you can achieve almost anything. Today, you've listened here to the simply superb Ash Lawrence, performance psychologist and business owner. Be sure to tune in again soon for our next podcast interview.